Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and on this episode, we're taking a look at a figure of one of the hottest anime franchises out there right now that at long last has an action figure that will not break your bank account. And that's because today we're taking a look at Bandai's Anime Heroes figure of Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man rapidly became a really big favorite among anime viewers for a number of reasons. It's pretty obvious when you first look at this character. I think you'll figure out why really fast. But even if you don't completely understand the hype, all you need to know is that this anime is awesome, and it's about time we got a figure from the Bandai Anime Heroes line, because this line, I think, is one of my personal favorites out there for anime collecting. And I say that because you have a lot of very high-end companies making action figures, and they look amazing, don't get me wrong, they are outstanding figures, but they do cost a ton of money. Whereas what I'm holding in my hands right here, this is going to cost you probably about 20 bucks, no more than 25 depending where you order it from. That, I think, would include shipping. And I believe that the Anime Heroes line is really one of the most overlooked lines out there for collecting. It's such an amazing line, lots of characters, really good accessories. They've gotten so much better too over the few years they've been doing this, so I've got a lot of high praise for this figure, and in a few moments you're going to see why. But first things first, for all you mint on card collectors, let me tell you about this packaging. And this is the standard Anime Heroes packaging. You've got a great big window on the front that lets you see into the box and lets you know precisely what you're getting with your toy, which in this case is a whole lot of chainsaws. We've also got an image of Chainsaw Man on the front there, along with his name. And it's got this really nice neon green and white color motif going on here, which really pops, especially next to the red and the really silvery black darker parts of Chainsaw Man's head. Now on one side you've got that same image of Chainsaw Man here, but what I really like is the opposite side. What we have over here is the Anime Heroes logo written out on the side, and you've got Chainsaw Man's name on the bottom. But why I like this is for folks who collect their figures and put them library style, which means you'd have them facing out like this instead of like this. It kind of reminds me of a manga book, and that is really cool to me. It reminds me of like a proper Japanese manga, so when you pull it off your shelf, it's like you're almost taking a book out. I think that's just a really cool design choice. Now, as for the back of the box, it's a little bit less exciting. It's pretty much just purely blank, to be quite honest. You've got an enormous photo of the Chainsaw Man action figure in action, along with some more of those really nice fluorescent neon green color swatches that have been aggressively thrown across the back of this packaging here, and that's really it. I mean, everything else you're getting underneath that is really just manufacturing information. So there's no bio, there's no stats, there's no photos of the anime or anything like that. It's just the toy, his name, and that's really anything of importance. And of course, you can also see that this is not a very big box, so that means it's not going to take up a lot of space on your shelf if you are a mint on card collector, but I am not one of those people, so let's go ahead and get our Chainsaw Man action figure out of this packaging and take a closer look at him from all angles. And here is our Chainsaw Man figure out of the box. Here's our first quick look at Denji. He is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick rotation first just so you guys can see him from all angles. But yeah, like I've said in the past, and like I said at the beginning of this video here, I feel like the Anime Heroes line from Bandai is easily one of the most underrated figure lines that collectors really are missing out on. You know, the thing is, they are very much priced for kids to play with, but that doesn't mean that they're missing all the high points that adults are looking for in their collectibles. And this one is a pretty cool one here. And unfortunately, he fell over because he's a little bit unbalanced thanks to his chainsaws. So, you know, maybe we'll come back to the 360 view in a moment, because, yeah, he's going to probably need something to help counterbalance him. But why do I think these figures are so great for collectors as well as for younger anime fans and kids? Well, I mean, number one, look at this thing. I mean, we're talking likeness. This looks straight out of the anime. You know, this looks like Denji. Are there some details missing? No, there might be some paint app that's not here because this is, after all, like $20 figure, more or less. But you're getting some really good, strong details here. So let's go ahead and start by talking about the likeness, as much as there is one here with a guy who has a chainsaw for a head. And yeah, you know, I mean, it's not like I can really talk about photorealistic likenesses here because the man has a chainsaw for a head, but you know, this looks like it's the chainsaw right from the anime, and it's got some really nice colors too. I mean, that's kind of like the nice thing you can talk about this thing here is the colors. You've got the bright orange, you've got a lot of the black in there for the back of the chainsaw, but really where it stands out is the chainsaw itself. But I want to get into that separately in a minute. One thing I do want to point out is that his teeth here, it feels like there's meant to be some space for maybe some, like, I don't know, different lines in there, but he actually does have sculpting for every single individual tooth or fang, whatever you want to call it in this case, and it looks mighty nice. And you know, if there's one thing I could suggest if you wanted to at home improve upon it, is get yourself some shading paint, like, you know, how Warhammer folks use that to darken up their figures. You probably put a little bit on that, and you can get some really nice, very fast texture onto those teeth, and then you just go back over it with a dry brush with some nice white, and yeah, you'll make this really pop. I mean, I'm actually tempted to do a separate video all about just how to repaint this guy, because I feel really inspired looking at him. But the big talking point I want to cover now is actually the chainsaws themselves. So we can see here that Denji has, one on top of his head. We've got one for each arm. So if in case you are wondering, because I know I was when I saw this guy in box, the chainsaws are soft. They are soft material, which you might be wondering if that's a good thing or a bad thing. In my opinion, that's a very good thing, because one of the things I was worried about here was what happens if this guy falls over, especially considering how he did when we were doing his rotation. What happens if he falls over, and what happens to those chainsaw blades? Well, because they are the softer rubber material, you've got a lot less to worry about because they're not going to break. They're going to be able to hold their shape really nicely, and that's very important with a toy like this. And it's the same for his arms also. They're all just as soft and rubbery. And yeah, that's actually very much a good thing when it comes to this figure here. So yeah, now as far as repainting that part of the chainsaw, that's going to be a little bit harder because it is that softer material. So unfortunately that you'll have to avoid. But luckily, it is a pretty nice looking color. I mean, it's not a shiny rubber because it is just rubber. But it still has some good tone onto it. And you've got some nice chainsaw detail as well. So nice little teeth on the chainsaw itself. So good choice and a smart choice there from Bandai. And as far as the outfit goes as well, it's just straight out of the cartoon. Luckily, Chainsaw Man's outfit, Denji's outfit, it's really not that crazy. I mean, you got his high tops there. Underneath, you got his skinny jeans. You've got his button-down shirt and his tie, rolled up sleeves, and he's pretty much off to work. That's really all there is to him, which makes it very simple. Same with the back of the clothing too. You'll see, nice texture, good folds in the clothes. You can see the joints, they're all quite exposed. But I'm okay with that. I've always been okay with that because to me, the Bandai figures have more often been about playability more so than like hiding joints or things like that with other more high-end figures that would cost a lot more money. And I'm perfectly fine with that, and hopefully you're feeling the same way as I am. Now, let's talk about articulation, because that's one of the places where these Anime Heroes figures really stand out. And while they might not have as much articulation as like a WWE Ultimate Edition or something like that, you've still got a really solid range of movement here. And we'll start with the head, because this head can turn left and right. Not only that, the neck joint is actually separate. So that's why you're seeing this get some really nice movement, very fluid movement. So that's really great. And also, I just want to point out the really excellent texture that's on his neck too. There actually is some sculpted texture on there. So it's not just like a blob of dark gray plastic. And you can see, actually, you can even kind of jut his head back a little bit so you can get some nice chainsawing motion there. Pretty good. Very solid here. Now, as far as the arms go, we've got a single joint in the shoulder and likewise single joint in the elbow. There is no wrist articulation because you've got chainsaws there. So yeah, you're not going to be able to do much with that as far as moving his wrists around, but I mean, you got chainsaws for hands, so really what else do you need? Now, you notice, so we mentioned he's wearing this like shirt here. This shirt is actually a softer material. It's a similar material, actually a little bit softer than the chainsaws here, but it's still a very soft rubber, and that means there are hidden joints there. So you can actually have him bending like this, and that's going to make for some really cool posing, good versatility. Yeah, that moves really nicely, very fluidly. And his waist also turns, so you're getting some excellent posing here already. Now, as far as the legs go, we have, again, single joint for the hips there, so you can see that. But again, these figures and the way they design them, they tend to have just a very good range of motion because of the way that the ball joint is positioned there. I don't know if you guys can see it as much, but it's a very exposed joint, and that means you can get into these really great dynamic poses. That's about as far as his leg goes to the side, but straight up, it goes a little bit higher than that. And yeah, not too bad from the back either. Now, the knees, we do have double jointed knees here, so again, now we're getting some really, really good, strong posing right there. And as far as the feet go, it looks like you got a little bit of up and down flexing ability here with them, but for the most part, they can just turn, and they can turn completely around if you need them to. So pretty good. Overall, it's very solid articulation, and I really can't complain a ton about it because, he's able to stand up straight. That's kind of the biggest thing. Now, yes, he did fall over while we were doing the rotation. That's because he is a little bit unbalanced, and when there's motion involved, yes, it will be a lot harder for Denji to stand up and not fall, but if you're just like putting him on display somewhere, you're not going to have any problems with that. And in case you're wondering, his feet do not have any peg holes. So if you really were worried, you could just put some like blue tack on his feet and that'll keep him steady wherever you plop him down. But really, I mean, I've had him standing up for most of this video without even touching him. It doesn't take much to keep him standing, and you can see it again right here. No problems. It's just the movement that kind of threw it off because that chainsaw is quite top heavy, but get him in the right spot, he's not going anywhere. Now, as far as paint job goes, they're generally always very, very simple paint jobs with the Anime Heroes figures. There's not really any texturing or shading or anything like that. It's fairly one note. Very little variation within the colors here, but it looks good. Again, it's basically just how he looks in the anime, so you really can't complain about that design. That's just the design choice that works for them. Now, let's do some figure comparisons here, and I'm going to bring in some other Anime Heroes characters just so you guys can see how that looks. And let's start with a Luffy over here. Let's get our One Piece Luffy standing up next to him. And let's bring in our Goku from Dragon Ball. This is one they did from like one of the more recent films, which we also have looked at on this channel. All these figures we actually have looked at on the channel, so if you want to see more about them, go ahead and check out our reviews. But they are all in pretty much the exact same scale with each other, and that's another really great thing. So you can have all the different anime franchises that Bandai Heroes has done, and everybody will fit in with each other. And you can see what I mean too about the articulation. It's pretty much the same across the board, difference being that Goku has his much different pants on, but those are actually also double jointed knees, believe it or not, and he actually also has drop down hips, which are really cool. So that's how Anime Heroes figures look next to each other. Why don't we try just a few other figures so you can get a better idea of how they scale up with everybody. And let's bring in an X-Men 97 Marvel Legends of Rogue figure. And yes, she's on a base because unfortunately she's not able to stand up on her own for some reason. We'll get Goku out of here. And let's bring in another Marvel Legends, a male figure of Maggot. So they're not far off in scale, luckily. I feel like the Anime Heroes figures do tend to be a little bit smaller, but with a character like Denji, I think it's a little bit less noticeable. So you can see like he's coming up to a similar head size as Maggot and pretty similar to Rogue too. So that's not bad actually. So I'm going to swap out Rogue for another figure. This would be a WWE figure from Mattel. And yeah, not bad again. I mean, Hogan's one of the taller figures, and he's still pretty much on a similar height here. So that works out pretty nicely. And just as far as like comparison goes, I'll bring back our One Piece figure just to show you again, scale-wise too, I think that's fairly accurate as well, just as far as like how he should be height-wise compared to Chainsaw Man, I think. I don't really know their heights, but what I'm saying here is that I believe these are essentially 1/12 scale figures, or they might be just like slightly smaller, but for the most part, it's so slight that it's not like they're in a different scale completely, and they will fit in with your 6-inch figures. So let's try doing this rotation one more time. Now that I got his hands down, maybe he can actually hold himself up. We'll see here. And I'll give you guys my final thoughts on the Anime Heroes Chainsaw Man figure. And really the nice thing about these guys is that they are very affordable. The price, as I'm doing this review on Amazon, shows Chainsaw Man at $22.99. So they've gone up a little bit more as far as like price goes. I think it's also on Big Bad Toy Store Entertainment Earth. So they've gone up like $2 in the last few years. That's really not bad. They've maintained a $20.99 price point or $19.99 price point for a while. So, as the market does fluctuate, they kind of have to go with it. But what you're getting for that price, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. You've got excellent articulation. He is holding himself up straight as we rotate more now. You've got some good posing. And keep in mind, the other figures that are going to be out there on the market are from specialty people like Figuarts or similar brands that are going to cost you triple that amount, maybe even quadruple, depending on what you get. They're going to be worth it because you're going to get more accessories, I'm sure. You'll get different things that you're not going to get here. You might get like a Pochita figure. You might get some other chainsaw hands with maybe some blood or something on it. I don't know. There's going to be more options, but you're going to have to pay for those options. And you're going to be paying a lot more because they're also imported items. This is, yes, an import because it's an Anime Heroes Bandai figure, but it's essentially domestic because it is kind of like, I assume, being made overseas, but sold in our stores here. You're not going to see this in Japan, like, for example, Figuarts or whatever. But point being is that this is cheaper because of how it's been made and in the way it's being sold. $22.99, not a lot to ask for a really excellent Chainsaw Man figure. And I'm hoping that you guys now see what I was talking about when it comes to these figures and why I think so many collectors are sleeping on them. Because really, I mean, they're really excellent. I really appreciate what they did with the chainsaw hands also and how those are soft rubber, as well as on his head too. Good sculpting, nice articulation. It's really a knockout figure, and I think if you're a Chainsaw Man collector, you're going to want this, especially considering that it won't break your bank. Now, if you want to pick up this Chainsaw Man figure for yourself, go ahead and check out our affiliate links in the description of this video below. If you click on any of those links, it helps this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. So I'm Matthew. That's been our look at Bandai's Anime Heroes Chainsaw Man action figure, available right now. Let me know what you think about him in the comments. Thanks for watching. This has been Nerd News Today. Don't forget to subscribe and check out everything else we're doing here on the channel. We will see you guys later.